Okay, should be it. Um, Hello. So I'll be continuing where I left off before. I think I got a little bit of work done, um, off stream, but the idea was to not do too much. I was doing a little bit of reading here, and I got a better idea. So I did figure out some pretty nifty things, right? Apparently, Godot 4.1, they introduced the thing that I was looking for before, which is this. So static var, this basically is allows me to access the game data class only for this, right? So if I'm correct, if this is going to operate like it does in Unity, this doesn't need to actually exist in any particular scene. It's not a singleton in that way that it needs to be loaded at the start of a scene or anything like that. This is just something that it's once the game starts, it's there. So it's in the background, and we can actually just go into it and get some functions. So I made this function, which is going to effectively uh, check if the hit is off cooldown. So whatever attack that we've used, if that's off cooldown. And this is the recent hit, right? Well, not the attack, sorry. If so, think of this kind of like an invincibility uh moment, right? So like I'm pretty sure everyone's played a game where if this kind of mechanism didn't exist, then you just get like murked by every enemy, right? There's just frames of invincibility that you have to recover. So this is that 0.1 second that you get to do that. Um the way that this is set up, basically I'm trying to think if start, I don't think we even need start anymore. So we can actually just get rid of this. Right? Yeah. And I don't think that's going to mess anything up. There's nothing using it. So this returns a bool, obviously. But the idea is that now I have access to this property. Also, I came up with a pretty neat way of handling what I wanted to handle before, but this way is easier. Uh, Effectively, what it was is that I would create the signal, emit the signal, destroy the signal, and then have something to have another static function that would be called, and then have the non-static function, I guess, or whatever. Effectively, uh, that one would call a that function to populate back inside of this, returning the value effectively, and then I can just return out of that. But this way is just so much better. This is what should have been there, and I'm glad it is there. Uh, the other way is just janky and so many calls for no reason, right? In Unity, it would have just been 2 lines of code, so it's basically just a lambda call. It's not even, you don't even need a function to do it. Well, it is a function technically, but it would just basically be an inline lambda operator to get in to invoke uh the, in this case it would be like a signal or an event in Unity. And so that way I could convert um static a static property into a non-static property from anywhere in the code with from anywhere in the project without ever having to create a dependency between uh, um, anything really. It just it worked beautifully for that purpose. This we have to figure out a different way of handling that, but this is kind of getting the same result. So I'll show you right now what hit off cooldown is doing. Right, so this is the actual call now. So that just exists somewhere else, but this is the actual call. So when this weapon, right? So this is going to be so. So actually, I came up with the idea for the architecture is this. So effectively, we're going to have the weapon controller, which is going to have the weapon and the state machine that the weapon controller is in. So this is going to basically be tracking like the combos and stuff like that that you're doing the state machine. Um, it's not like a crazy state machine. It's actually based on TyroDev's state machine from Unity, and I just figured out a decent way of handling that. Um, but because of the nature of the state machine, it's very easy to get it to work with this, right? So, and so I'm hoping that by the time this is done, then I won't need to have any kind of update loops happening in any of these. Well, in these two, this shouldn't need anything. Right. So I did a little bit of reading on resources. So the way that this works is we're going to have a resource that just has all of the data. Then the weapon controller is going to collect the resource or the data from, it's going to get the weapon data, right? It's going to have, weapon controller is going to have access to the weapon data. So it should be getting this from, uh, I mean, we're not going to make that system right now, but this is going to be getting the weapon data from whatever you have equipped, obviously. And that's going to be the active weapon. What I'm going to do is I was doing a little bit of reading on getSet in Godot. It's a little bit different. You can call a function on getSet, which you could do in Unity also, but it looks like it's made for that purpose. So whenever the weapon data is changed, it will call the function to update the weapon controller. So I'm thinking if I should, yeah, it's going to be, so inside of the entity script, right? I'm going to put that get set, and basically if the weapon is changed, it's then going to, if the value for the weapon data, whatever it's there, is changed, the active weapon, then it'll automatically tell the weapon controller, hey, you need to update the your information, your weapon, so that way you can have an active weapon, right? So now the active weapon right here, if this is not null, and you press an attack, right, it will then do whatever the weapon is supposed to do. So how does the weapon know what it's supposed to do? So one of the things that it's supposed to do is it's supposed to be able to move. So this can be, let me draw it. This can be the player, right? And this would be like the path of the weapon around the player. So this is WASD controls. The player will face in the direction that they're moving into. Aside for up and down. If I change the sprite later, then I might decide to go with 4 directional sprites. But for now, it's a one directional sprite. So it might decide to go with a 2 directional sprite instead of a 1 directional sprite. Or is it 3? Yeah, 3 directional sprite. Um, so the idea is that the weapon moves around the player, and it's moving essentially to follow the mouse, right? The weapon is going to try to face the mouse. So when the mouse is over here, the weapon will flip and it will face this direction. And once the mouse is over here, the weapon flips and it faces this direction. And then from there, yeah, if I click, then the weapon should do some type of an attack, right, inside of its range here. And then if I click again, and I timed it properly, then it should do its second phase of that attack. And then if I click again, it should do the third phase. So that would be like light, light, light. Or if I do like right click in the middle, it might go light, and right click is heavy, then it might go light, heavy, and so on. And the variations to the attacks will change based on that. So now, how does it know to do that? It's going to be the weapon that's telling it to do this, but that information needs to come from somewhere, right? And so that would probably be the data. So inside of data, there's going to be some executes. That's important for me, at least, to understand um, what exactly is happening here. The weapon data, or the weapon data, is not supposed to be something that I change, right? Because this has to exist in a few ways. In Unity, what I would have done is I would have created the scriptable object. Then I would have created the class, the weapon class itself, right? So I would have weapon data. And then I'd have the weapon class, which is the information at runtime for the weapon. It's also serializable. I mean, the scriptable object is also, but it's through converting it over the data over into a C Sharp class. In this way, the only reason I ever make a resource or a scriptable object would be for the specific purpose of having access to the variables easily from the project, or to the properties rather from the project, uh, and then being able to just make more of them on the fly. Like you can just duplicate and then change the values and add a new sprite, and suddenly you have a new item. Um, so there's going to be a couple of things that are going to happen here. The first one is I'm going to be using some, which I've used already, inheritance. I'm going to be doing that again because we're going to have item, and then we're going to have like weapon or whatever, different types of items underneath the item, right? Because not all items can be equipped. You might have like a, I don't know, like a piece of candy or something so that can heal you when you eat it or something, right? Like it's gonna all be, they're all gonna be items. So the reason why I want to do it this way is because there's something called duck stepping, where I want to be able to go, well, is what I'm getting at the data that I've gotten, is it item, right? This is a good way, a solid way of being able to check the type of things that you're dealing with without having to just access it directly, um, which is good. So that's a big picture, or smaller, like slightly less small picture. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so yeah, so to finish this up, essentially, this is going to collect here, or it needs to collect its ignore shape. So how does it know what the ignore shape is? Yeah, here it is. So this is going to call the weapon controller update data, right? So let's go to the weapon controller. Actually, let's go to entity, because entity is where story begins. So in entity, we need to actually have the weapon class. So now this is the weapon class over here, and this weapon class is the actual weapon that we're using. So we're not going to name it the weapon class anymore. We're going to name it weapon handler. Right? That's what I'm going to call you. So now the weapon handler is what handles the data for the weapon. This is the expression of the weapon in the game, effectively. Um, active weapon, weapon handler. Right? So now, in order, when it's ready, so now what is this? This is the weapon controller. So yeah, well, let's go back down to the weapon level, actually. And then this is no longer going to extend. No, sorry, this is going to extend. So we need to make a new script. Um, this is not a data type. This is a controller type. And now we need to make a, this is going to have to be a new type of item. Create new folder, and this folder is going to be, naming is tough, guys. This folder is going to be, let's call it the item. No, needs to be a little bit more generic than that. What are resources? Containers? Yeah, let's do it like that. Because it's not a, I mean, it is data, but this is actually the script that we're making. We'll have, I'm going to create new folder out here, resources. And in resources, we're going to have, let's get that in resources, we're going to have create new folder item. Then in here, we're going to have weapon. Right? And in here, we're going to have chakram. I'm also going to take the time at some point. Let's do it now, actually, while we be here to explain. So this is something that should do at some point. Gets the inputs from the player to control the character. Okay, good. Next. Through movement ability. Okay, let's go here and initializes the class properties with data from persistent data manager. Gets initial persistent data. Initializes and sets. Okay. Good enough. Entity. We're not using this stuff yet. Right? Loads, abilities for use on entity. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, let's move back over here. Let's check to see if this thing is actually on. Yes, we are. Okay. All right, let's get back over here. Okay. For now, that's fine. Um, for now, that's fine. So now the next thing that we actually want to get done is we need something for the abilities, the ability types, right? So let's do that. To be in scripts, I think it's under data, game enums. Okay. I think it'd be better to start doing it horizontally. Vertical is kind of eating up a lot of space. Enum, ability, type, or ability class. Yeah, no, let's do this. Ability type. And enum, item type. I don't think we need this. Where the heck is it? Oh, no, that's not it. Where the heck is this script? Should have been in controller, I believe. No, I think it should be in data. I don't see it. Uh, dungeon. Oh, okay. I see why. It's under abilities. I was putting them together. So it should be here. Okay, right. Nope, I don't think it can be done that way. All right, let's move back in. Um, this is just extending node on its own. But this is still an ability. And I don't know if we're ever going to make like a database of ability, but it would be really good to do this. Hmm. Interesting. All right, fair enough. I'm leaving it the way it is. Ultimately, what I'm trying to think of doing is something is I made code that was writing code for itself. So like if I wanted a reference to a specific ability, instead of doing it through a string, what I would do is something like properties dot ability and put movement, and then I would get this, right? Here's the rub though. I would need something. That's the thing I needed to study up on. I didn't do get the chance to do that. I needed to study up on interfaces. If Godot has, let's see, get a quick answer on this. Maybe GPT knows. Let's find out. Does Godot have an equivalent to Unity's interface? Yep. Okay. No, Godot does not have the equivalent concept to Unity's interface. Right? Right. So that's what it wants me to do. So the solution to this is to do a little backtracking. All right, we're going to do a little bit of backtracking. So let's go back to abilities really quick. And we're going to create a new script. And we're just going to call this abilities. And then we're just going to create that. And abilities, there we go. Not going to really have anything in it. It's just going to extend node and say class name abilities. Right? And then let's save that. Now we go here, and instead of extending that, we extend abilities. And we say class name movement. Okay? So now we can just do an is check on this for abilities later on if we want to make a system where, like, let's say I want to make a system where I want to collect all of a specific type inside of my project. Right? I want to collect everything that is of the type abilities. And then I want to put them into a generated class of properties. And I want to have access directly to them. So instead of having to type out this to get to it, is it going to put it there? No, put it over here. So instead of typing out that to get to it, I can just type out something like properties dot abilities dot um properties dot abilities dot movement, right? I can do something like that. And it will actually be the same thing as putting in that reference over there. So the idea is very similar to, or the reason to do that is very similar to why I like using enums, because they should fill themselves in as you're going along, so you never have to worry about a typo, effectively. Okay, let's keep moving. So this is kind of actually how we're going to be setting up the weapons or items in a second, right? I'm going to, um, yeah, I'm going to be doing something very similar with items in a sec. Okay, yeah, I feel like that's good enough. So now, nothing really, we just did that because down the road I don't want to have to get frustrated or flustered. But yeah, so this is done. This is what I wanted to get that to do. It's doing now. The next thing is now the items itself. So in the script over here, in the container, we need to make, what? Oh, controller. In the container, we need to make something called create new script. We need to make item. Okay, and it's going to inherit resource, and it's going to be have any templates, so let's just create it. Okay, so yeah, this node, we can just close it. Uh, right, we can close that, and we can close this. Entity, game data. I think we can close game data. Game enums we're going to need in a second. Yeah, we can close this. Okay, good enough. This is going to extend resource, and we're just going to create class name. Right? And it's going to be, we're going to extend, and it's going to be, let's say string. Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Interesting. When, sure. What do you mean error at 5.9 extends? Am I using it wrong? Extends var item name string. Oh, oops. I'm a dummy. This isn't supposed to be extends. What is it? Is it expose or something? Export. That's what it was. I think that's what it was. I've done it before. Let me see. It should be dungeon player. Oh, it's at export. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Sorry. I've been you know what it is when you hit that point where you're just going over so much crap and then you forget your left arm from your right. Um okay. That's this. At export. Can you do this still? String. Does that work? Nope. Okay. Oh, hold on. Maybe I might have just string. Oop. Okay. Okay. That should work. There we go. All right. At export var. So we're just talking about regular items. So we want the quantity int max quantity. So we have And we need to have an image. Actually, let's do this for our texture. In Unity, it's a sprite. In this, it's texture. Texture 2D. Okay, so we have a texture, we have an item name, and we have a quantity. So now all items are just going to come with this, right? That's the idea. Let's save this. And now we're going to do a new container type, which is script. Yeah, new script. We're going to call this equipment. All right. And we're going to create another one. Weapons. Okay. And that should be it. So it's kind of the same reason, right? Why I did it this way, because not all, if I do an is check, I want it to be able to break it down as much as possible. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's open up equipment next. And this is going to extend resource. And it's going to implement. Does that work? No. That. Nope. Okay, fair enough. So it's going to extend resource, and so I don't have to worry about all of the other stuff. It's inheritance, so it's going to just inherit that on its own from actually it's not extending resource, it should be extending item. There we go. It's going to get all of that from item. And then in equipment, probably the one thing all equipment are going to share is they're going to have a bool is wait. Nah, I don't think so. What one thing do all equipment have in common? I mean, aside from the fact that they can all be equipped, I think we can probably just leave this like this for now. This basically functions as a way of saying, hey, this thing is a equipment. Class name, equipment. Right? Class name, equipment. Yeah. So now basically I can just do a check on the equipment and it should be done with that. Let me close these. Close docs. There we go. We have item, we have equipment, and next we need the weapon. Okay. So now here we go, class name, weapon. Right? This is the reason why I wanted to take that other one off. So now anything that's a weapon can go here. So some of the things that the weapon probably wants to have is something like at export var damage, which can probably be a float. Let's do that. Right? And it probably is going to have, like, say, a durability. That's something that all equipment can have. So let's go back up one step to equip. Let's bring this down. Let's go up to equipment, and we can add something like at export var durability float. Right, and so now all equipments will have durability, which is awesome. We go back to the weapon. So all weapons have damage attached to them. So now if I go and I want to make a new weapon, new resource for a weapon, I can go here and then go to create new resource. weapon. Is it not there? Why is it not showing up? Item. There's item. Is it not? Did it not load yet? Oh, that's why. Equipment. There we go. Got to remember to do that each time. Rename. Okay, good enough. Right, so now when I go here, I can go to create new resource weapon. And we're going to put it inside of the chakrams. And we're going to say this is novice chakram. Okay, so now let's take a look and see what we've done. So we can close this. Let's close that. Close the main for now. Open up a new one. And let's go to 2D. Right. Actually, we need to open back up. Close this. We need to open back up. Means systems weapon. There we go. Okay. My question is, why is this? Oh, that's why it's not showing. There we go. I think. Yep, there it is. Okay, boom. I was on Node tab, didn't realize that. So, right, I thought I had to open up a specific scene. That's not the case. So Godot is actually a little bit different, right? So like Godot actually breaks it down. Like in Unity, you'd have to like, it's pretty. This is exactly. And now I know why people say that Unity feels. There's just a difference in how they lay out. Because in Unity, it's just so much, man. Like in Unity, you'd have to custom make this, and I've spent days and weeks on editor code. In this, it just does it automatically, right? Like it, you know that this is the weapon part, equipment part, item part, and so on. Oh boy, it is what it is. You can't get everything that you want in one thing, right? And then we just go like that. So now we've added the chakram texture, and we can say that the chakram has infinite durability, and it does 1 damage, and it can hold a maximum of 1, and that's it. So now the idea here is pretty simple, right? It's that we now have the weapon itself, right? Made. This is how scriptable objects worked in Unity. Believe it or not, this is exactly what it was. And now I've made a new weapon. And we could just do, duplicate this and then just keep replacing and changing the values as we need, and we have different weapons, which is awesome. But the thing is that we need logic that's going to go along with this, right? So if we go back for a second to the weapon script, let's go back to scripts and go here. We can create, actually, because of just how this is where it comes down to like the game that you're making, and you have to just make something specific for what you need. But yeah, so basically at export var offset float. All right, so this is effectively going to be the offset from the weapon controller that this particular weapon is going to be at. Right? Um, yeah, that's basically it. So now the thing is, that we need a way, now that we have this, we have the system itself, and this shows right away, right? It's right here, offset. So we can say that the offset is going to be like, uh, I don't know, since it's 32 by 32, so let's say that it's uh, 32 pixels offset from the weapon controller. So the the we need a way to get this from the from data. We need a way to say, hey, this thing, and we also need a process to incorporate this as data that's going to be stored in game, because I don't believe I want to store. So I don't know, and probably I want to find that out. Let's see if maybe we can find that out. Let's go back. There we go. Let's see. So the question that I have here is, are resources, see, so here it is. Aha. Okay. So yes, they're loaded from script. This is pretty cool. Unity doesn't have this for scriptable objects. That is cool. I think I've already answered my question. So I think resources are inheriting node. Is that what's happening? I don't think so. It inherits ref counted an object. Got it. Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Interesting. This is just different. It's not exactly like scriptable objects. So there's ref counted. Apparently is something that is tracking internally when it wants to free things from memory, which means that unlike a scriptable object, this is actually meant to be in memory and be manipulated. So is this, the question that I have is, instance. If true, the resource is duplicated for each instance. So what is this? Local to scene. What's that doing? If true, the resource is duplicated for each instance of all scenes using it. Aha, that's what I was worried about. Okay. So effectively, yes, the resources are connected, right? So if I make a change to this resource similar to a scriptable object, I'd be making a change to everything that is referencing that resource. So let's say like in my game, like in normal games, this probably wouldn't matter. But let's say in my game where NPCs are going to have their own inventories, if for some reason the player upgrades an apple, turns it from red to blue, and I change that as a part of the resource, then every NPC, if you look at their apple, it's going to be blue because they're all referencing the same resource, right? So what I would do in Unity is I would actually clone the. I would make a clone method. It would be pretty simple. It's a shallow clone. So what I do is I just take. Actually, I think that's a deep clone that I do. But it depends. There's two different versions of it that I do. But I think for this, I can just get away with just copying the property information and then sending it to the to some type of holder for it, right? And this holder is just going to be pure data, right? It doesn't have to have a node. It doesn't need to extend anything. It's just going to be itself something that is made to hold information about that particular item, right? So in truth, what I really need is a buffer between the entity and the resource, where the entity, um, if I like equip, where is it? Say I go here and I go and let's say I add a field over here. No, that's the weapon. Where is it? Dungeon player, right? So let's say I go here and I add, um, let's go to entity real quick so you can see it. Oops, script. Let's say I add movement activity. Yeah. So let's say I add var, add export, oops, active weapon, and I say, or equipped, or let's say weapon data. We're not going to do it this way. That's just to show, just really to show and to test later. Weapon data, and we're going to say that we want to have weapon, right? So now we can do this, save, and it should have, am I still in the dungeon player? Yeah. Okay, so it should have on the entity section, I don't know, where is it? It doesn't show. Maybe I need to restart this thing. Sometimes that happens where where I need to actually restart this thing for it to show stuff. Let me see. Maybe if I go like this, resource, might be like an internal thing. Hmm. Weird. Is there something wrong? No. Hmm. Should be right here. Is there there might be some error happening somewhere. Let's do something real quick. First, let's entity export, and we're going to do this. We're going to say we want to export the okay. Put this here. Do we have errors anywhere? Let's try to play and see if we get any errors. No, we don't have any errors. But why is that not showing up? Let me just restart Godot. Yep, there it is. Just had to restart Godot. Okay. So, right. And then we can hit like this new weapon and make a new weapon right on the fly, I guess. I never tried that. Um, but since we have that, but let me see. I want to see what happens when I click this. Ah, and we can actually just make one right here on the fly. This is actually pretty awesome. I like this. I like this. This is freaking awesome. Right? This is really awesome. I like it. That's cool. That is cool. Uh, which actually is explaining to me exactly what's happening with other things that Godot is doing. But for now, we're going to actually go and grab our container. Where is it? What did I store it under? I think it's under resources. There it is. And we're going to just put that here. All right. And this should have, whoops, all of the stuff about the chakram in it. All right. And so now what I want is, okay, the data for the chakram can be pumped in. All right. The player equips the chakram. So we get the data for the chakram. But we don't want this to be a direct reference to this. We need a buffer between it. And uh that's what I want to, that's what I'm interested in making. I'm interested in making that buffer. And the idea is that it's going to turn it into a C# class, or rather, I guess a GD script class. And it's not going to actually extend anything. It's just going to take the raw information from this and put it into data. Now, what happens with that is if we, when we do that, all right, when we do that, it's basically going to be almost mirroring what we did on the data side. Because you have to think of it like this is data, and we're about to make this is disk data and then runtime data, right? So we load disk data at one point, populate the runtime data, and then from there going forward, we're always just manipulating the runtime data. We're not actually manipulating the disk data, right? This kind of functions as like something like the factory setting, if we had to compare it to something. This is like the factory setting right here, right? All right. So the next step is we need to mirror this architecture. Uh, so let's do that. Resources. So over here, I think it's in the script. What would we call it? I think we're gonna go over here actually. No, I think we're gonna go here. Create new folder for resources. This makes more sense. All right, and then from here, we're just going to create new script, and we're going to create one. We're going to call it weapons. Weapon data. Okay. And because these are going to probably, these are likely going to have functions in them, right? There's going to be some logic in these, is what I'm thinking. It usually is. So I'm going to, I think we can get away with just duplicating this, I'll be honest. Yeah, okay. We want to name this one equipment data, and we want to name this one, oh, whoops, item Okay. So now this way we're only manipulating the instances of the items that we're going to be making this way. Right? That's the goal here. So if we go to item data, and it's going to basically follow the same pattern here. We're going to make a class name, item data. Oops. Okay, then we go to equipment. It's going to be class name. And it's going to extend item data. And if we go here, open, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to, I don't think GD script, does it have a constructor? Does GD script have constructor? Let me see. Oh, I see. So they do it that way. Okay, that's weird. That is different. So we need to go to item data and we need to get rid of this. It doesn't extend anything. And then from here, save, and now, what are you? And it crashed. That's happened once or twice. Okay, do you know why you crashed? What did you lose? Where is it? Item data. All right, and then we go weapon data, sending that. Okay, good. So in item data, we're going to have, we don't need to export anything here. We just need to, let me go here actually. Grab all of this and, oh, I see they put it in alpha. I didn't realize that. So it makes it easier, actually, naturally. Right? And then we save that. Then we're going to go, what was the other one? It was equipment. So it should be up here. So let's grab that. And we can go here to the equipment data. And then let's get rid of this. Right? And then we probably are going to want to have a function in here that handles equipping, right? Yeah. So technically speaking, these are supposed to be abstract classes, right? Can I make... Yeah, you can't. All right. Fair enough. So, you know, it's not a big deal if it's like, you could just put, but you like put like a note. Just to let myself know in the future this is not supposed to be something that gets instantiated on its own. Right? And part of that is that these are not going to have initializations. The first initialization is over here. So now let's do that. So it. Yep, it's a thing. Okay. And we're gonna take in data, weapon, data. Right? And then that's that. And then let's put pass here for now. So in order to make this, it's going to require that you put in its weapon data in order to make this class actually function. So let's go to the weapon real quick and then grab these last two. Okay, and then we can get rid of this. Okay. So now, ideally, we want to set the item name going to be equal to data dot item name. The item, the texture going to be equal to data dot texture. The quantity and max quantity okay. Quantity, max quantity, and durability. Those are the three. Oh, oops. Okay, and that's it. So now, when we make a new item, right, or when we're going to apply a new item, what's actually going to happen is we're going to go and say we want to make a new weapon data dot new, and then we're going to put in the data that we're talking about. And then from there, it's going to populate this. And then from there, we feed that information to the weapon controller as this being the active weapon, right? So this is going to cache this. Weapon controller. Okay, like that. Do we even need to cache that? I don't think we do. It'd be nice. Like, if we needed to reference the current weapon that you're using, then it's nice to just have it here. I don't think this is absolutely necessary because we're going to have it already in the entity. Right? So like if we go to the entity, we can say weapon data, and then we can say it's just to show this works. Okay, then we go down to the dungeon player level. And then we say, what was it? If the weapon data, there we go, and the current active weapon. That should be it. Identifier current not declared. It's kind of, I spelled it right, correct? Um, Identifier current active weapon not declared in the current scope. Okay, hold on. What's going on here? Let's save. Current. Not picking it up. Why is it not picking it up? Is this one of those you have to reset Godot again? Why is it not picking it up? Let's try playing, see what error we get. Nothing. Okay, so it's saying everything is fine. We're all okay. But really, the house is burning. That is so weird. Why is it doing that? It's telling me that the script doesn't exist. Make sure persistent entity is yes. And it's picking up on weapon data, but it's not picking up on this current active weapon. Okay. It picks up weapon data. Current active weapon. That should work. Let me reset or restart this thing. What the heck is going on here? All right, let's think. Godot is saying that invalid argument for the function. Oh, okay. So this is different now. So this is a different thing. So let's take a look at this. I might have just named it wrong. Weapon data. Yeah, I just named it wrong. This should just be weapon. You might actually flip the naming around just because. But yeah, that's a thing. So now let's find out. We're gonna put like a print here. And we're gonna say print the item name, right? And we're gonna set the item name from over here. As soon as it wants to open. There we go. Where's the item name? There we go. Novice backroom. Okay, let's save. And let's print, let's play. Novice chakram. There we go. Okay, awesome. So now what that just did is it proved that this system is connecting without any problems. It should, right? It's doing exactly what it should do, which is that it's generating this. So now this is actually the what the inventory system is going to be based on. So I'm kind of also making that at the same time. But yeah, basically the inventory system is going to be dealing with this and not anything else. So now to prove the point, or to proof rather the point of what I was worried about here, what I'll do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to say data dot damage is going to be equal to 300, right? Let's just say like that. And we're going to check to see if the damage over here is going to change on the actual. Because if it does, that's a problem. Let's save. And we're going to like that. Oh, it did not change the damage. Right? And now let's check to see, or it might not have updated. I'm not sure. Data dot print data dot damage. Right? I want to know what the damage was before and the damage is. Whoops. What the damage is after. 1 and 300. Hmm. Hmm. There's only one real way to find out. Do this. Let's get rid of this. We need to test this for sure. So give me 1 second. We're going to go back to the entity script and we're just going to make a copy of this. And we're just going to go to the, whoops, dungeon player. And we're just going to add the chakram. Where are you? What the heck? Am I in the right area? It should be character body 2D. That's not correct. What's going on here? Where's my entity script? Be right back. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like my entity script is going to give me that issue so long as I don't fix this, if I remember correctly. All right, so we're just going to do this real quick, then we're going to pass, and then we're going to go like save, and sure enough, it pops back up. Right, so now that's the issue. So now, the next thing is that I want to add the chakram to it here also. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change one of them, the first one, and I'm going to check them both. All right, so what I want to do is I want to get print weapon data dot damage, and I want weapon data 2 dot damage. Right? Why is it not picking up on this? Weapon data 2 not declared in the current scope. Why not? It's right here. I'm literally looking at it. Is it weapon data underscore 2? Entity, what are you? Weapon data 2. Literally weapon data 2. Why? Why, Sway? Let's do this. Let me see. Maybe it's just something that needs to be saved. Oh, whoops. Pass. Okay, let's go back to the entity. It's not giving me any errors. Current active weapon and weapon data. These are the two problems. So let's see. Weapon data 2. Is that going to pick up on it? Nope. Let's try restarting this thing. Okay. There we go. All right. Weapon data 2. Now it knows it exists. Thank you. Okay. So first we're going to do that. Then we're going to go weapon data dot damage is equal to 300. Right? And then we're going to go weapon, do the same thing basically. We just want to print out that. Now let's start. Yep, okay, so it's doing exactly what I thought it would do. There we go. It's just not changing it in the... It's a little bit different than Unity. Unity would change it here, right? So you could see it in the inspector. But apparently this is just reflecting editor information, and this, when you actually play the game, it's reflecting like the game's information. So these are two completely... So I'm assuming that it's actually building the game is what's happening. But yeah, you see what's happening here. All I did was change one of them, and it changed it throughout the entire game. No matter what instance of that resource or reference to that resource, it's not a different instance. It's the same reference. So that means that yes, the system that I'm making right now is valid. I should be making that because this is not made to handle this kind of situation. proper. It's acting like a scriptable object in certain ways that I'm familiar with. So this is the way to get around that. So let's just get rid of this. We can get rid of this. I mean, to prove the point, right? I mean, so now basically when, where is it? Weapon data. Whenever, if I change damage here, so like, if I say like the damage is supposed to be 50 or something, right? Is damage is equal to 50. It doesn't change the damage data. It will only change the data on this, right? Which allows me to do a lot of other things without having to mess with stuff. If I ever wanted to just reset the damage back to factory settings, I could just go back and then grab the data. So now what I want to actually do here is, and something that I should probably put, sorry, something that I'm going to put right here is var, so this is actually a good moment to consider this. I think this should be data, and I think this should be weapon. And I think I want to do that way. Let's do this. Data, data, item, equipment, data. Okay. Oh wait, no, this is just weapon. This is wrong. This is equipment. Okay, and this is, got it. All right. So now let's save all of this. Crash. I'm having a rather Godot is having a hell of a day today. This is the most I've ever seen it crash. Like it usually crashes like on me like once a week or something, but this is the most I've ever seen it crash in one day. This is intense. So we can just get rid of this for now. We're gonna go back up to the entity level, and we're just gonna change this over from this is the weapon now, and this can be gotten rid of. This is the weapon data. Okay, that should fix that situation. What? What's the issue? Export type can only be built in resource node. No. So where's weapon? This is weapon data, which extends equipment data, which extends item data. Oops. Here we go. Item data, which item data. Ah, there we go. Now that should be okay now, right? I think I need to save. What is this? Weapon data, equipment data, item data, resource. Entity. Do I need to retype it or something? Weapon data is a resource, you dummy. Uh, okay, so let's do this for now. Um, let's do some renaming. We have the containers here. This is going to be rename. Ah, you can just press F2. That's the hotkey. F2. Or maybe not. Like, what is the point of a hotkey that doesn't work the first time? Equipment, data, check, rename, data, check. Okay, and that's the containers. Then we have the resources. And we're going to change names on these to just being equipment. I think this is better because I'll be using these more often than the other ones to handle items. There you go. It just feels better to do it this way. This is the actual, this is the data for it, but this is the actual items that we're dealing with. All right, let's save. Did entity figure itself out yet? Let's find out. Well, first, let's just take a look. So we're gonna go and take a look at the item data, right? Actually, let's go and take a look at weapon. Where's weapon data? There, weapon data, right? Weapon data is its class name, is looking at equipment data. Equipment data is looking at item data, and item data is a resource, or is extending from a resource. So that should mean that entity should then say, hey, nope, it doesn't. Okay, let's try restarting this. One more time. Oh, okay. I see what was causing the problem. I think it's this, right? I think that's what's causing the problem. Get rid of those. And now entity, I go here. Is it updating proper? Yes, it is. Okay. Now we can go back down. So I think it's like if at any point in the inheritance chain there is an issue, suddenly Godot just says, blur, I forget how to compile. That's basically what happens. You have to kind of, and yeah, you don't get enough information here. Because if that was the actual error, then it should have pointed that out to me before. It should have gotten to that before it got to this. But I don't know. What do I know? So now let's do that. Now it's saying that the weapon data is not declared in the scope. What did I name it? Wasn't it weapon data? Yeah, it is. It's right here. Weapon data. Is there something else that's giving me an issue? I mean, obviously weapon data is declared in the scope. Right here, but it's saying it's stuff like this that it's like, I'm already slow at this stuff, but then when you get hit with this nonsense, the duck typing, like you can do something like that, right? And we can just check to see, or rather is, if weapon data is weapon data, then this is kind of doing a few things, right? If this is null, then this is going to say, nope, this is nothing in here. If this is something, then it doesn't match, and so on. So this is like really freaking cool. And is actually much, I think, much faster, or just a bit faster than doing a null check, which I believe is searching through the hierarchy in Godot. So to check to see if that particular element is. But there is the problem. Ah, there we go. That's what's missing. There we go. Oh, identifier weapon data not declared in the. What does this mean? Ah, hold on. Let's get this out of the way. This is now weapon. If weapon data is weapon data, current active weapon is equal to weapon.new. See, it just feels better this way. The naming, that's why I said naming is hard, but we get it eventually. Um, weapon data is. Come on, bro. What is going on here? Tell me what your problem is. Identifier weapon data is not declared in the current scope. But that's bull because I'm literally looking at it over here. Where are you? Yeah, it's right over here. Weapon data. And it's not showing up here because that thing is giving me errors. So let's do this. One. Actually, there we go. Uh, okay. Let's try running the game and seeing what happens. That's fine. So now, oh, forgot. Where are you? Okay, good. Um, the game runs perfectly fine, right? It's it's not even giving me a compile issue here at all. This is typical stuff. We're just not using these things yet. It's moaning that we have stuff that we're not using. Um, yeah, let's get rid of this for now. We don't need to do that. Okay, nothing. Hey, why are you having an issue? Weapon data. Is it because of the naming? Don't get it. Are you telling me I seriously have to restart Godot in order for it to pick up on a change like this? Are you serious? You can't be serious. I'm going to try this one more time. I'm really sad if that's what it comes down to. Wow. Just wow. Oh boy, that's bad. Fair enough, whatever. So yeah, basically this is duck typing. All right. So now the next thing that I want to do is I want to check if so this is basically creating that weapon for me. All right, let's go to weapon. So when we go here, it's creating that weapon for me. But the other thing that I want this to do is this is what we stopped doing a second ago. I want this to actually store the weapon data. Right? I want it to store a reference to hold on. There. Okay. So in this way, um, if something happens to this item, right? Like, I don't know, let's say we have an effect that damages the item or something, then we can, I don't know, get rid of that effect. Would be really nice on this would be an effect system, right? And that's not really too difficult to implement in Unity. I'm not too sure about this. Um, I like to do it where I pick the hard way to do it, which is I tend to just make it so that way they're self-sufficient. So effectively, like the effect will have its own lifetime that it tracks itself, um, and then just reports back to some effect manager that hey, I'm no longer active or something like that, which allows for like out of effect communication. It'll just transmit like, yeah, I'm no longer or I am active, and this is the thing I'm affecting, and it pretty cool. Um, okay, so this part is done. All right, this part is done. So now the next thing is we need to go to. So this is the weapon data. We need to go back to here because this isn't supposed to do this. Well, no. No, this is it. This is what we want this to do. Right? But I think for now this is what we want it to do. But when the game is actually running, right? When we actually make the inventory system and so on, what will happen is that the player moves something to equip. And when they do that, what will happen here is that we'll have something like this. We'll have something like var equipped weapon. And then we'll put something like we probably won't even have the weapon data here. We'll just have weapon, right? And that will handle that. the equipment, by the time the item gets to the character's inventory, it should have already been converted from a weapon data to a weapon. Like once it's actually in the scene, this should only ever exist as just a point of reference. Like, hey, right? But it already exists. So like if I type weapon.info, I should get the info from this. But the weapon itself, whatever parameters is on it, currently is just, we can just get that directly from checking the weapon itself, not its info. Okay, so now some logic. So this is logic that is probably going to go back to the item. Let's get rid of this. Um, Item, right? So here we're going to have, sorry, func. Uh, so this is what I was going to get. How does this work now? I've never used this in Godot. Let's make this first. Func. Right? So this is something like if we want to add more of a particular item. So we're going to add the quantity up. And then we're going to take in int, oh, sorry, one int, and it's going to say if quantity less than the max quantity, then we do item if quantity. No, actually it's not that simple, right? The if the quantity is greater than the max quantity or equal to, then we just return. We don't go any further. That's one condition. The next condition is if the quantity is if quantity plus, ooh, new quantity. Let's do that. Okay, so now if the new quantity plus blah 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 is greater than, then Okay, there we go. So we just say that we separated the excess from the we'll separate the excess from the amount, right? So if, I don't think this is going to be needed because it should never get here. I think this is more getting into inventory code. We're going to try to keep this simple. I think I want to keep this simple. The inventory, this is really just, this is really getting into that area of I know what I've done in the past, but part of me wants to try something new. So I could just do it the way that I've always done it on Unity, but part of me is saying I want to try doing it this way. But I think there is a wisdom to having done it the way I did it before, which is that if I want to change how this operates, how this functions, right? And it's all in one place with other things that are doing similar things to this. So the intended purpose of this is simply to just prevent this from going over. So if you've reached this point, then this is like the final fail-safe to ensure that this doesn't go over. But this code should have happened in the inventory itself, right? So this is kind of like um, this shouldn't be a thing, right? This shouldn't happen. This is more like uh, actually, hold on. Thinking about it, this is inventory script because so this is going to return. That's what I'm thinking. This is going to return an int, right? And we're going to have it return 0 here. And it's going to return an int, and the int is going to be the excess at the end. So let's just do that so we stop getting that error. Right? Which can be 0 also. So let's take care of the situation where it's 0. If okay, there. So now actually no, this is supposed to return the amount. Right? So we're going to say we want to add quantity. And then we're going to say, well, wait a second, the quantity is already at or greater than the max quantity. So we're just going to return out of this back this. So like, let's say if I'm working with a slot system and I have 10 apples and 10 is the maximum, then this will push back out and we can do a check in the inventory side and it will say, oh yeah, I still have a number here. Let me make a new, let me grab a new empty slot if one is available and then push whatever remaining apples into that since uh, we have access to the item and the item will have access to, actually let me put that here, var info, right? And we're just going to leave that blank. It's dynamic. And when we go here, back down to the weapon, where is it? We're going to get rid of this. Please don't make me have to freaking restart this thing just so you can pick up on it. Oh, come on. Come on. Are you serious? This is so dumb, bro. It's right here. Why are you serious, man? What am I missing? There has to be something I'm doing wrong. What's making me, that's forcing me to do this. All right, so we put this here. New quantities greater than blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay. Oops, sorry. I should have set this like this again. There we go. Um, this is why I cannot stand that. So basically now the next condition is a new quantity is greater than the max quantity, so excess is, so we grab the excess from that. So in this case now, we want to return excess, right? Because we've basically we've set that. So we want to set quantity is equal to new quantity. And then we're going to just return the excess. So let me think, what did I just do? New quantity is greater than. So this is going to go here. This is going to come down. This is going to go here. And I think, actually, I think we can just get rid of this. I think that's it. I think we don't need the conditions. Right? So what's this going to be? So this is basically whatever the max quantity is, I want to subtract the new quantity. So the new quantity is going to be the quantity plus the amount. And then if excess greater than 0, then we want to subtract we want to subtract that from there. And then we say quantity is equal to the new quantity, and then we just return the excess if there is any. All right, that's the goal. There's only one condition here. So now, after that, we have at the quantity, amount, int, func. So we don't need to worry about certain things. We just need to func. This is just general. Yeah. Remove from quantity. Right. So now we're going to say that we want kind of the same thing that's happening here, right? There's so many different ways I've done this. I think this isn't necessary here. I think I'm confusing the issue. I think this is supposed to be just a simple check. I've confused something. This is what I'm writing right now is the item slot class. That's what I'm writing. And I confused it with the item class, right? And all this is supposed to be is it's supposed to be the final check between this so like let's say so if we go to like a slot, we actually don't need a quantity on this. Now that I think about it, what we do need is a max quantity, but we don't need a current quantity. That's what's confusing me. We added an additional property for no reason. So we can get rid of this property. And we would be okay. Right? That would be what it is. That's what the problem was. We had an additional property that we didn't need to have. So let's get rid of it here also. That's what started. That's simple things like that can throw me off because I'm thinking inside of the box instead of outside of the box. I have to take a breath to catch what's actually happening. So this is basically it. I would, so let's say okay, let's make this func. Reset, which is going to be calling init self.in. What is it named again? Weapon underscore init. It would have been nice. Okay. That would have been nice, but you can't get away with that. Darn you. Darn you. Darn you. But what we can do if this works like Unity, we can do that. And then when we go down here, we can go func reset. I legit can't figure out why the heck that's happening, I swear to you. pass. Func populate data. Weapon data. Same thing. Populate. And instead of that, it'd be info. Right there. So now if I call reset on this to reset its stats basically to the factory settings, it will do that. Awesome. Oh boy, I have to restart this thing so that way it can pick up on info. Give me 1 sec. There you go. Okay, what's going on here now? Now it's not picking up on current active weapon again. Why? Could not pick up on class weapon. Oh, right. There's an error happening in weapon. Where is it? Weapon. There we go. Weapon extends equipment. Right? That's correct. What's going on with equipment? There's an error in items. Pass. Okay, let's go back to weapon. This should fix itself. Could not resolve superclass inheritance from equipment. What the heck is going on here? Class name item. Shouldn't be. Could not resolve superclass. Item data. This is not giving me the same issue. Equipment data. Oh, it's saying it's fine. But for some unknown reason, this one wants to be, it's the simplest thing in the world, but it wants to act like as if this is rocket science. It's freaking nuts. Why are you giving me an exception? There's no exception in this class. I've already fixed the one issue that was right here. Don't tell me I have to freaking restart again in order for you to pick up. And seeing what happens. Let me see. If I start the game, it gives me an error. Hold on. Let's see. Could not resolve this. Let's just start over. Okay. Did it resolve it? Looks like it did. Weapon. Quantity. There we go. Now we can get rid of that. Okay. Holy crap. That's bad. That is very bad. Wow. Does info work at least? Oh, gosh. Okay, fair enough. Um, that's that's rough. Yeah, so basically I mean, it was rough, but it got done. So this is the item. The next thing is we now have a working system for just adding more items as we see fit. We can just make a dozen of these, and now we have a ton of items. And it's going to have we have the setup for a way of manipulating the data on the items created from the definitions set right here. Um, the next step is integrating that with the weapon controller. Right? The weapon controller itself needs now to tell the weapon, hey, this is the item that I have. And you're going to instantiate a weapon that's going to operate on these parameters. Right? The beauty of this weapon is that it takes in anything. So the actual weapon itself, or here, right, I'm going to have to go into weapon data and make some more fields. So one of the fields that we need at export is var the let's go to weapon over here. We need to know its collision shape type, right? And we need to know what collision shape. So if it's going to be a circle, a rectangle, or something like that. So we have the sprite, we have this, and we have the offset. What we need is this. Oops. So in the weapon data, we're going to say var collision hit box hit area shape, and it's going to be collision shape 2D. Is it? No, it's just going to be shape 2D. Right? And that, we save that, that should show up here. There we go. And yeah, so now we can select what shape we want. So we're going to go like new circle. And then from here now, we can set the radius of it. Right? And then right. And then once we do this, Interesting. Okay. So we can say that this is going to be, what did we say? We said 32, right? So that's the radius. It's going to be 32 pixels. Um, as that's the same size. Wait, no, the radius is 16. Right, there we go. That's the same size as the chakram. Um, and I mean, now we have some power, right? We can do certain things. And so we set that up from the inspector. And so now when we go back to weapons, we can add that here. We can say var hit area shape. Going to be shape 2D. And we can say hit area shape is going to be equal to data shape. Man, this thing is it's painful. Hit area shape. Okay. So now it's going to create a shape around the object that matches the shape that we tell it to here, right? And so now what we need is, this is done. We don't need any more logic here, I think. Right? We don't need any more logic here at all. So with this out of the way, let me just go back up a couple levels and take a look at item. Okay, yeah. And let's change some naming. Equipment. Max. Durability. Max durability. Good enough. Okay. So yeah, it's getting too complicated. Let's not get into that yet. Keeping it simple for now. Crit durability, amount, current. Damn. That works in C sharp, I guess, not here. All right, fair enough. Ah, right, this is named Max now. Of course, I'm going to have to friggin' Yep. 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 Of course. Max durability is not declared. Okay, so reading up about what's happening here, apparently this is a thing with Godot and custom classes. So effectively, Godot just doesn't, it does a shit job of, let's do this. It's going to give everything an error. Let's do that now. It does a shit job of updating information inside of custom classes. All right. Well, you know what? Let's do this. Go back. Try that one more time. A hard time finding equipment. Why? Could not resolve. Going on in equipment. Oh, this. Pass. Do I need to restart again in order for it to work? Yep, I do. Maybe Godot just isn't ready yet. There's certain things that are just excellent, but then there's just things like this that's just like retarded. Why? There's no rhyme or reason. It just does what it wants to do. Now it's picking up on everything. All right, which means that I can actually test out to see if this line of code will work, because can that work? Nope. Okay, fair enough. Um, right. I think that's it. Let's go over here, take a look at a weapon. 2D, so the weapon handler, right? The weapon handler doesn't need a lot of stuff anymore. What it wants is simply just a reference to the weapon that it's currently active to it. Right? Um, I think I'm going to end this in a little bit. I'm going to get one thing done. I'm going to just, well, two things. I'm going to just do this little part right here. There's going to be no real logic tied into this yet, but I just saw something that I wanted to hit. Bar, current weapon, right? And a lot of this information is going to be here in current weapon. So when we do this, we go and we get the data. We're going to say that the data is supposed to be of the type weapon, right? And then we're going to say data dot text, texture, damage, offset, and source. And we have to do something about it's the weapon has its own collision shape. It has its ignore shape. So we need to get a reference to we need to get a reference to var self collision shape. Going to be collision shape 2D, and we're going to say collision. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know how this is going to handle that, but when this exits, I'm telling it to disconnect. I don't know if it already disconnects. I should check that out, but it is what it is. What else do we need? The weapon itself doesn't care about a lot of stuff, right? It doesn't care about max amount. It cares about the damage, it cares about the visual element, and it cares about its offset from the weapon. Now, the next thing this thing is going to want to care about is how it handles each attack, the weapon. Now, this is where I get a little bit indecisive. On the one hand, I'm thinking we could use the built-in tweening library and simply tween what I want the weapon to do. On the other hand, we can add an animation to the weapon. In both cases, I want to do this through the ability system that we made. All right, so if you think about it, let's stop and think for a second. Right now we have an ability system, an item system. We have a method of saving and loading a ton of NPCs and the player, and getting the player specifically. Uh, I think we're doing okay. It feels like it's not a lot, but um, it's actually an okay amount. So the weapon sprite, we finished that. We haven't done the ability combo. We haven't made the enemy. I think we can call this. This is either done or not. Let's call it done, because the player is done, which means that all instance characters are technically done. Instanced characters. Whoops. Persistent characters and instant characters. Entity structure. Oh man, if I had split that in half, this would be done. All right. Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna call it there. But yeah, so this is like the next step. We have items now, right? So now the next step is gonna be I need to figure out how am I going to approach this? Am I going to make this a tween? If I make it a tween, I can just um, put a state machine on the weapon, I think, or probably the weapon controller. No, on the weapon. It comes down to what is actually going to control where the weapon is, right? Is it going to be the weapon or is it going to be the weapon controller? I think the weapon controller will probably want to. So the player, the entity, is going to check, hey, are you attacking or not, right? If it's in the attacking state, then the entity is going to be doing specific things. Then the weapon controller is going to check, hey, what kind of attacking state am I in with this weapon? And that's going to determine. So, like, um, am I doing a combo? Uh, because I'm going to stick to a pattern of 3 lights, 3 heavies, right? And then special attacks. So if you're doing an attack, right? If the player is saying, well, you're in the attacking state, then at that point, uh, so I'm skipping a part. So basically, what it comes down to is where am I going to put the movement, the weapon's movement? Because if I put the weapon movement on the weapon itself, then if the weapon itself is negotiating its movement relative to the camera, then it might be better to put the state machine on the weapon itself and then just turn off its movement whenever it's attacking. That way, um, it'll commit to an attack, execute the attack, and then the once the attack is complete, then it will allow for movement to follow the mouse again, the weapon to follow the movement of the mouse again, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with. So that's what I'm going to call it. It's going to be, that was a pretty good little session. I might hit a little bit more later tonight, but I think that's it. I think that's where I'm going to call it. All right. That was a good log. Always look back at this.